My life be like, yeah. My life be like,
Ah, yes. That is the lifeblood. That right there is what I need. Good morning, guys. Pops the Paladin here. And I am going to take you through heroic Plaguefall solo as a protection paladin, and more importantly, a Tauren protection paladin. I'll get to that more later. Now, as we start this video and I start talking about everything that's going on here, I want to preface this with many failed voice recordings, many failed game recordings, and a lot of them have to do with my stupidity using my brand new setup that I have here. You can see I'm not using my snowball mic, I'm actually using my Astros. And that was giving me fits. And then in recording the dungeon itself, also giving me fits because, as many of you know, that I am a paramedic firefighter. I was actually trying to solo this dungeon while on duty, and so occasionally I would get a 911 call and have to drop everything that I was doing in order to obviously go help individuals. So I had to do this dungeon like 4 or 5 times, and it kind of sucked because I would get all the way through Domina, I'd get to Margrave, and then a call would drop, and I'd be gone so long that it would boot me out, and I'd have to start all over again. So I'm switching around some specs here, getting through here, and as you see, I go into Protection Paladin. I'm using Blessed Hammer, Seraphim, and Righteous Protector. I should have been using Hand of the Protector, but I'm sorry, not Hand of the Protector. I am using Judgment Light. I should have been using Consecrated Ground, but I didn't. I just used Judgment of Light in order to heal just a little bit there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the dungeon. This is a recording and then me doing a voiceover of the recording. So you're going to see my mouse move. I'm going to jump ahead in order to show you the paths I took, the fights that I did, and just try to get you through this dungeon quickly. It took me 40 minutes to do the entire dungeon solo in heroic difficulty. But I want to try to get this video done for you in under 20, so that way you don't have to sit through me muttering as I try to explain what I'm doing, and so you guys can get on your way to collecting your Slime Serpent mount, which is a reskin of literally 17 other different wormy snake mount things. Hopefully Blizzard's done reusing this model, but we know that they probably aren't. So if you didn't get any in BFA, hey, at least you're going to have a slime wormy mounty thing now. If you did get them in BFA, well, you're going to have one that's slightly green and palely yellow. Probably won't use it, but it's going to count to your mount collection and kind of get you moving on from there. And so, yeah, I know I'm talking over a lot of this, and I can speed through here, in which we're going to do. So we take the big guy into the slimes, we kill all the slimes, we do all the big AoE damage and all that good stuff. The one thing that I'm going to say is I am a Kyrian player. That's my covenant, and that is because I am a main spec Ret Paladin for my current raid group. I'm no longer the main tank, GM, or raid leader because I am in a new guild, and that is Protocol on Cho'Gall as of recording this video. And so that is my main spec now, and you're going to see a lot of my videos that you'd say, well, I don't use that covenant, or I don't use those abilities, or I don't also play Rets on top of it, so what am I going to do? I try to do the best I have with the covenant abilities, which is fine. I could throw out a heck of a lot of shields, but I don't get to use that sweet Ashen Hollow that I really want to, because it does a lot of damage in Prot spec, because I believe that it is health based, and if I'm wrong, you can say in the comments below that I'm wrong. But I do remember at the beginning of this X-Pack when I was Venthyr on Ret, because I theory crafted that was the best, and I was wrong. It was doing like 9.8k if I was in Ret spec, but it was doing 15,000 if I was in Prot spec, and maybe it was a tooltip error or something like that, but I always felt like it hit really hard on Prot and not quite as hard in Ret spec. And so if I'm wrong, please prove me wrong in comments, but I do believe that Ret will probably go to Venthyr at the end of the X-Pack based on how I believe it scales via health, and as we get more health, it's going to do more damage. And so I take the normal heroic route here, hugging the left wall, taking this Plague Rock, and then I'm going to jump off this cliff, and because I didn't feel like waiting for the Spine Breaker, because as I said, this is like the 50th time I've done this, because of recording issues. I just went through it. If you don't have enough damage to get through the Spine Breaker, you're probably not going to have enough damage to do this anyways, so it doesn't really matter. One key thing that I want you to realize, you are a Paladin, which means you have cleanse toxins, and so this dungeon is right up your alley in order to handle all of the debuffs that would be placed on you. And so really utilize your cleanse toxins as much as possible. I use decursive because I am kind of brain dead when it comes to using modifiers on my keyboard. You can clearly see that I have Alt 1, Control 1, Shift 1. I cannot wrap my brain around using it. For the many years that I've played this game, I can't use modifiers, which is a ridiculous statement to make, but it's totally true. Now, as you come down into Dr. Ick's room, if you do have a plague board, do not kite him through this room because he'll pull more adds. Now, does it matter if you get more adds? It doesn't, because you should have enough damage to kill them, but if you want to do this speedily, make sure you kill that mount and come around the right-hand side and up the hill. Now, as you climb up these stairs and come on back down, I take the standard mythic route, and that is through the main island right there in the middle, as opposed to taking the normal heroic route all around the outside. It just takes longer. You should have the damage, once again, if you're going to solo this, to take that middle island. You just want to make sure that you're paying attention to the Defender of Many Eyes, and you want to War Stomp or Hodge them once they put up their little bubble barrier in order to continue to DPS quickly. I believe in Taurens wholeheartedly, even if you try to tell me otherwise. I do know that they're not the best spec, but I believe in them wholeheartedly, especially with things that come with War Stomp as a just free additional kind of short Hodge. And I'm just old school back in the day. You know, I made this character 12, 13 years ago. I don't even remember how many years ago I made this now. I'm going to say 12 or 13, but that's like the same meme where you're like, this is Mario, what you thought was 20 years ago, when it's actually like 40 years ago. It's whatever. What I'm saying is I play Tauren because the health increase that you used to get back in the day, which was pretty beneficial to tanks, and then we lost that when, you know, 500 health was no longer a big deal, and we got a crit chance. So Taurens will be good at the end of this expansion when we already have high crit and all those numbers, but right now, the crit chance is actually not the best for DPS increase, and so I just stick with my Tauren because, one, I'm not going to pay money to race change even though I am a Mythic Raider. Two, my Tauren is very close to my heart because it's what I originally had. So I'm skipping ahead here until we get to Domina Venomblade, and I'll talk a little bit about how we go into this fight. Let's skip ahead, and then I got to backtrack a little bit here. Okay, so I hammered Righteous a couple times to get full holy power walking into this fight. Seraphim wings, drums, and start to do all the damage. Now, I didn't have any buffs on my character when I walked into this. I didn't have spectral power, I didn't have food, I didn't put on a weighted sharpening stone or anything like that. Because I was frustrated having to record this so many times. But I did remember to use drums, which helped out a little bit here. And so you want to collect these Brute Assassins 3 or 4 different times, just because the glaives that they throw do actually hurt. Not terribly, but when you're dealing with other mechanics and you're moving around or you're not moving, you want to be able to mitigate that. So I walk around and collect the Brute Assassins as much as possible. And then dealing with this Shadow Ambush. Now, it is going to stun you for 3 seconds. If you're moving around and you're low health, you could potentially die. And so when you see me walk around here, I'm going to collect these Brute Assassins. I didn't have my Divine Steed, so instead what I do is I Blinding Light them. You see I Blinding Light, so they're not hitting me. I get stunned. I just barely squeaked out some holy power for a Wog there. But I wanted to make sure that I was going to survive that one hit because my Ardent Defender was down, and I did not want to use my Kings yet. I don't actually think I used my Kings at all this fight, but I just didn't want to use it in case I needed it. And so I cleansed my toxins again there with my Decursive on that weak aura timer bar that you saw. I just clicked it because that's what I have it set to, and then I continue to move on here with DPSing. Remember, Wog is hecka strong. In my opinion, it's way stronger than Shield of the Righteous, though Shield of the Righteous is decreasing damage I'm taking. When you get a fatty 75% heal off of a Wog, which is basically a free lay on hands, and you can get that almost every time you have Wog available. It is super, super strong. You're almost playing like a DK at this point in time. Death striking every time you drop low, which is a weird way to play Paladin, but it does work, and it allows you to use the Serpent build a little bit more freely because you're not constantly spamming Shield of the Righteous, and you're more or less using your free Wogs as you can for the most part. And so we go around and we collect these guys. I'm going to collect one more set of Brute Assassins after this particular fight here. After this particular one, and then it continues on. So I know it's a lot of rinse repeat, it's a lot of damage, but I want you to see how I'm using my abilities as we go through this fight. I will be skipping a little bit in Margrave because that one truly is the most rinsey repeaty fight there is. So this is the last bit of stun. I go and collect this last set of Brute Assassins. I know I'm at 22%, so I'm going to be able to DPS her down after I collect these guys. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sit here and we're just going to DPS and fully ignore the next set of Brute Assassins, which I actually think I beat the Brute Assassins when they spawn here, but playing it outright again, using all of my cooldowns, my DPS, my Wogs, and all that stuff like that. It's the same rinse repeat. You guys don't need to hear me continually repeat myself. Here come those Brute Assassins. We're already at 9%, so I definitely know that we're going to beat having to deal with pulling them in here. We might get hit by a glaive or two as it goes on, and there we go. Domina Venomblade is dead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip forward here, and I'm going to explain how I go about this room. I'm going to take a real quick sip of coffee, because as I said earlier, it is lifeblood. Alright, so on Mythic Plus, what I do is I go the left-hand side, and I jump through this little pool here. Make sure you jump so you don't get stacks. But I go through this pool right here, and I start the fights on these individual guys separately. Because Icker is not in the fight. Icker Bileflesh, yeah, is not in the fight. He does not buff them, and when they get buffed, they hit you for a lot of damage. You have to kite them at high key levels. I think if you're like a 205 doing a 10, it's pretty drastic in terms of what it hits. So you typically kite them away. And then your DPS kills them. But if you go about this way, they don't get buffed until you go into this last group where he actually is located. And you're going to see one of these guys get buffed. I'm going to show the buff, then I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The other thing that happens is if you kill these other groups, Icker Bileflesh does not jump around the room. And that's kind of beneficial as well for keeping DPS nice and checked. So you can see one guy is quote-unquote enraged. You don't have to kite him away. It's heroic, but for high keys, you do want to kite that guy away because he does hurt a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip ahead. He transitions at 66 and 33%, and he does a Shadow Step. And I'll show you this Shadow Step that it actually does Shadow Step right where you are as opposed to jumping the room, because he does jump to each individual pack. He goes right pack, then left pack. But you can see here, he just goes steps right back to the same location. Boom, and there's the fight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up a little bit after we kill him, and we're going to go into Margrave Stradama. So Margrave Stradama is infinitely easier than Domina Venomblade. The one thing that I want you to remember and take from my mistake is kill the malignant spawns. And what I thought I could do is out DPS this malignant spawn and phase her. Clearly I couldn't do that as Protspec with full cooldowns available, and I learned the hard way that I should not have done that. Now you're going to see I got a very lucky spawn here for the soak mechanic. Here comes the next malignant spawn. He's going to spawn off to my left hand side, and I just got lucky in order to soak these things. And then I actually got a third one, not at the same time. Like I killed this one off here to the right hand side, but the third one spawned relatively close to the second one, and I was able to soak again fairly easily. Don't do this to yourself, especially if they were to spawn opposite. I believe that you can totally survive the non-soak, but just doing mechanics is usually the best thing for you to do if you're unsure. So here's a soak, and then we just start to do the transitions. So now let's skip ahead into the transitions, because there's not a lot of damage incoming to you except during Infectious Rain, of which when you get Infectious Rain, you should... Now I didn't, but you should cleanse toxins when you have 4 stacks, because that is when she's done. When she applies 4 stacks, she's done. And if you try to cleanse toxins at 1, 2, or 3, you are just going to have it reapplied, and that's taking damage. Now, obviously, you see me, I lived through 2 of them just fine and easy, but if you decide to do this at a lower item level, it might hurt a little bit more, so just get into the habit of cleanse toxic. Don't get hit by the tentacles. You should live as a tank, but again, mechanics are always king, so try to avoid getting hit by the tentacles. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we transition her. So I am going to skip ahead because it is the exact same thing that you saw in phase 1, and I am not doing anything special as a tank to survive or anything like that. I don't even think I use Ardent Defender or Kings in this because it's really not a lot of incoming damage. And so let's skip ahead to the next phase here. Which is incoming right about now because she phases at 33%. So Infectious Rain incomes. I'm killing the spawn just to try to get that low. It cleanses toxins at 4 stacks. She transitions. And for those of you who have not seen this fight ever, I'm going to stop right here. And as you can see, this first tentacle that spawned tells me the first slam. And then the direction that the tentacles spawn tell me the direction that the slam will occur. So this one will occur clockwise. So what we do is we stand here at the final tentacle that spawns and we wait for this guy to slam. Once it slams, we just move back into the position in which that one existed. Now the cone in which the tentacle slams is much larger than the animation of the tentacle itself, so just be careful that you don't get caught out in that little cone. You should be fine even if you get hit by it as a tank at this level, but if you are going into this at a low item level, you obviously want to make sure that you're dealing with mechanics as best as you can. And so then we transition into her phase 3, and her phase 3 is just her plus tentacles, no more malignant spawns, and so it's just straight damage from here. Try to save a Divine Steed if you feel like you're going to get caught out by a tentacle slam, and it's pretty much just DPS until the end of the fight. So I'm going to take a couple sips of coffee here, and we'll be right on back. Okay, it wasn't a sip, it was a gulp. But, so you see here, we're running around. I got caught following the direction of the tentacles, but it's fine. I had a Divine Steed, so you can obviously outrun it. And we're just going to continue to do damage here. I'm going to step into the slam, and it goes all the way around. And this is the last little bit of Margrave Stradama. There's a cleanse and some damage here. Alright, so as the fight ends, now this is where I really want you to pay attention. I'm going to drink some coffee when she dies, but I really want you to pay attention because this is the absolute hardest part about getting this mount, okay? So just pay attention. Watch the path that I take. That is some really good coffee. Like, really good. Alright, the portal's off to the right-hand side coming from Margrave Stradama. It is the right-hand nook right here. We're going to click on this. And it brings us right back to Domina Venomblade's lair. We're going to mount up here so we can get to the mount very quickly. Speed doesn't matter, but here it is. There it is, off on the left-hand side. And that's where it appears. Now, I stop here in my video just to show you where it is, but this is the absolute hardest part about getting this mount. And it's very important that you do this one thing. You pet it. Congratulations, you now have a Slime Serpent mount. Now, I did think that it went in my bag originally, but it obviously doesn't. It goes straight into your collection, so hopefully this video helped you a little bit in terms of how to get the Slime Serpent mount. Now, as promised, I have 2 things that I want to say. First things, an individual informed me that I should probably ask you guys to subscribe if you haven't subscribed before, like my video if you did like my walkthrough, and gently tap that notification bell because I don't want you to break your very expensive mouse by slamming on the notification because you don't really need to slam on it. You just need to click it gently. So for those of you who did decide to stick around to the end of the video, I am going to show you Dr. Ick, and I am going to show you Glob Grog solo as well. But I am going to skip ahead because all of this trash is boring. And so as we get to Doc Ick, I walked in with full holy power, spamming my Hammer of Righteous, and began full DPS. Now, Doc Ick jumps at 66 and 33%, but there are a couple of things that you need to remember, and a couple things that you should do that I didn't do, and a couple things that you can ignore that I did ignore. And so as we get to this 66% and he jumps, I make sure I have a Divine Steed available so I can get to wherever he is quickly, and luckily he just went to my left as opposed to the opposite corner, and I steed on over here, and this is where I made a mistake. Don't make this mistake. I start DPSing him, and I'm like, hey, the glob appears. I start DPSing the glob, and what I thought, because I had aggro as a tank, that he would come to me. Well, he didn't. He started throwing Burning Strain, and that hurts a lot. So I interrupted him, I heal myself, and I go back to DPSing the Plague Bomb. Now, I believe that you could probably ignore this Plague Bomb and deal with it, but I just took the safe route and killed the first Plague Bomb, and then ignored the second one that spawns after we move him to the next platform. And you can see here, I Blinding Light the Pestilent Slimes, just because I wanted to get them off my back. And don't worry, I'm not going to die. I'm going to Wog myself here, because Wog is a free lay on hands always. It's not always, but my god, does it feel like an always free lay on hands. And so I did that, continued to DPS him, and he jumps away again here in 1%. And when he jumps away, this is where I chose to ignore the next exploding glob. And so I Divine Steed around here again. Here comes the next glob, and I bubble off to get a little bit ahead of myself without having to deal with using Wogs to heal myself. So I'm using damage, and I wanted to Seraphim right here. So I instead spend my Holy Power on a Seraphim, and then I Wog, and now I continue to damage. And so I mistimed this because the timer always gets me on this exploding glob, and I Ardent Defender and Blessing of the Kings, and then the timer reset itself again. And then it explodes right here. And I was like, oh shoot, I need to make sure I get some Holy Power to heal myself if I need to, and bam, we're fine. Doc Ick dies here, and everything is good to go, and that is how to kill Doc Ick solo. So let's zoom ahead, following the same path in which we took in order to get to Doc Ick and all the other bosses, and now we're going to kill all these Plague Belchers, or not all, 2 Plague Belchers, and deal with getting to the final guy. Now, the first time I did this video, I tried to do this on Mythic, and I just absolutely in Protspec could not DPS fast enough to Hodge the big Icker. No, I did not turn evil, of which, by the way, you can turn evil the very big glob. And that's 45 seconds it runs around, but I still couldn't do enough damage, even in that window, to kill Globgrog. And so what I did was I changed over to Red Spec, and forgive me for changing to Red Spec, but I did. And I know that this was a prot video, but this really isn't part of getting the mount. So I laid down my turnip punching bag, and I gained some Holy Power prior to walking into this. What I didn't realize is, as you look at this video here, oh my goodness, I have 20 seconds until my wings, and I still have time until my trinket is available. And I begin the fight not even checking my cooldowns, because I don't know what the heck I was thinking. So I Seraphim, began Final Wreck, and I'm building up all these things, and I didn't have wings. And because I didn't have wings, I didn't Execution Sentence off my Final Wreck, so I wasted my Final Wreck debuff, and I had to basically fight behind the 8-ball on this one. A lot of excuses, I know. I am a Mythic Ret Paladin, but man, did I play this one way, way wrong. And so to make up for that, I actually bubbled here to try to get some damage on board, and then I Wog myself. If you are in wings and you Wog yourself as a Ret Paladin, it is another lay on hands pretty much, and you can't die. It's unbelievable. And this is how I survive long in PvP, is when you're in wings and you're getting absolutely shrektedly eked, make sure you Wog yourself in wings, and it's a full heal. And it sucks for the other team. So I'm going to skip ahead because he heals a bunch, and I don't have all my cooldowns, and basically I don't kill him until my wings is off cooldown. So here we go, I go back in, he's at 30% health, there's a wreck, there's an Execution Sentence, here's wings, I'm going full bore at him, and you can see he is absolutely melting. And this is what I should have done at the beginning of the fight, and he dies right here. And so that is a solo full clear on Plaguefall Heroic. If you would like to see Mythic, go ahead and comment below. I will try to get a Mythic run, but I will not do it on duty this time, so that way I don't get interrupted 100 times and I can get you out a video out of here soon. I do promise that I'm going to get you more videos here shortly. I got the bug to redo videos again, so that will come. I've been really lax on it, and I apologize about that. But what I want to say is thanks for sticking around for the entire video. You guys are the best community. I do miss you all. I hope you get some good loot in here. Enjoy your mount after getting this all done, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right? We'll see you later. It's so good once it touches your lips.